All right, so we'll get started with our third lecture in our series. So this one's all about sleep. So what happens when we sleep, why we sleep, how does our lifestyle affect our sleep, different conversations on sleep aids, sleep positions and recommendations if you are having pain at night, as well as healthy sleep habits that anyone can implement starting tonight that can help improve your sleep overall. The hardest part about this lecture, I was trying to narrow things down as much as I could. So there will be some time for questions at the end. So if there's something that I left out, feel free to ask if you do have any other questions. So what is sleep and why do we need it? Sleep is a way that our body kind of cleanses itself. So it helps with restoration in terms of just mental and physical. The information processes in our brain, and it's almost like the old Dewey Decimal System, where it starts to file different things around and transfers things from our short term to our long term memories. It's a helps mood regulation. It helps strengthen our immune system, and it cleans the brain of toxins to help us live longer and healthier lives. According to Matthew Walker, who is a sleep expert, is widely known at this point. His quote is, "Sleep is the single most important thing we can do to reset our brain and body health each day." So there's not a system in our body that does not benefit from sleep. This book that he wrote was one of the books that really opened my eyes to sleep. I was always one where I was like, yeah, I can function on 5 or 6 hours and I can make it through the day. I'll just power through with some coffee. After reading this book, it makes you realize some of the things that happen when you do cut yourself short on sleep. So the information in that book is invaluable. I highly recommend you read it if you haven't had a chance to, or if you listen to this lecture and you just want to know more information about it. He really goes into the science of things that I just don't have time to do today. And it's a pretty easy read too. So good stuff. So according to sleepfoundation.org, this is the amount of time based on your age, what you should be spending in bed. Now, you think of newborn babies, they sleep all the time. They wake up, they eat, they poop, and they go back to sleep. So they're sleeping anywhere between 14 to 17 hours in general, sometimes as much as 19 hours a day. For the general population, the young adults to the adults, we should be getting anywhere between 7 to 9 as an optimal amount of sleep duration. It will depend for each person. Like some people can go a little shorter, or some people need a little bit more. As we age, we do tend to sleep a little bit less. So 65 plus, typically they can get away with 7 to 8 hours. Some people can even get away with 5 to 6. However, some of that research on that duration in terms of being that short is a little unclear, I guess. So basically, that 8 hour sleep that everyone you hear about, that's kind of where you want to be. That's the sweet spot for most of the population. Our sleep is we sleep based on sleep cycles. So there's two things that determine our sleep cycle. There's the circadian rhythm, and we have what's called a homeostatic drive, or what we call a sleep pressure. So humans in general are meant to sleep when it's dark and be active and awake during the day. So you can imagine in different seasons, we might have a little bit different sleep wake cycle based on the sun, and that's normal. That's very typical, and not to be alarming if that does change. But our sleep cycles are determined by our circadian rhythm and homeostatic drive. So what determines our circadian rhythm? It's regulated by something called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. We're not going to do spelling by the end of this. There's no test or anything, but the suprachiasmatic nucleus takes light from our eye and it transmits it to the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is what helps our body produce melatonin. So if you are staring at blue lights, whether that be a computer screen, tablet, phone, TV, late into the evening, that's going to be triggering that pineal gland to limit the amount of melatonin production. So we'll get into some of the recommendations down the line here. but you can kind of see where some of that blue light that we get from the sun naturally, if we have that artificial blue light, that can really affect our circadian rhythm and the amount of melatonin that we do produce. The other thing is the homeostatic drive or sleep pressure. So upon waking, the sleep pressure starts to build. And so when you fall asleep, there's a it's called adenosine that builds up in our body. When you fall asleep, that gets wiped away. So adenosine is a neurotransmitter that tells your brain that you're tired, and it breaks down when we sleep. So it's one of those things that I was talking about in the beginning where the brain kind of washes itself. So this adenosine gets washed out when we sleep, but as we stay awake, the pressure will build. So ideally, you have the circadian rhythm and our homeostatic drive kind of building at the same point that helps us fall asleep. Now, the interesting thing about adenosine and how caffeine actually works is if you can see where the eyeballs and the molecular structure of caffeine and the part of the molecular structure of adenosine are pretty much identical. So what happens is our brain has these receptors that receive the adenosine, and if those sensors or those the receptors are blocked with a caffeine molecule, adenosine continues to build up, but it can't take effect. So you can have this excessive buildup in adenosine, but the receptors in the brain that tell you, hey, it's time to go to sleep, are blocked by the similar molecule of caffeine. That's how caffeine keeps you awake. It takes that sleep pressure away. The problem with caffeine is that once that caffeine wears off, now you've had this buildup of adenosine. So if you've been, pulling an all-nighter and you continue to drink caffeine, this adenosine continues to build and build and build. Eventually, those receptors they break free from the caffeine, and there's a whole wave of adenosine that's waiting to fill those. So that's where you can get those caffeine crashes several hours post-consumption. It's because of that adenosine builds up and then goes into the same receptor that caffeine was in. So ideally, we sleep through 5 sleep cycles per night. So sleep cycles are broken up into different stages. There's stage 1 through stage 3, and then we have REM sleep. So each cycle should last right around 90 to 120 minutes. The first stage, as we start to fall asleep, our heart rate, respiratory rate, pulse, body temperature starts to decrease. So that's signaling our body that, hey, it's time to start winding down. We're ready to go to sleep. The pineal gland starts to release melatonin. We have that sleep pressure that's built up from the adenosine. Our muscles start to relax. You may get some of those like twitches when you're about to fall asleep and it kind of wakes you up. That's typically done in stage 1. As we progress through that, stage 2 is approximately 50% of our normal sleep cycle. The heart rate, body temperature, all those vital signs continue to decrease. We go into deeper and deeper relaxation. And that's where we get a lot of our memory consolidation and that transfer from short term to long term. Stage 3 is longer in the beginning of the night, and it goes shorter and shorter through the end of the night. REM sleep, on the other hand, is the opposite of that, which we'll touch base on in a second. It's much shorter in the beginning of the night and gets longer and longer through the course of the night. So all sleep cycles aren't built the same. So we'll talk about sleep architecture here in just a little bit, but you can see if the beginning phase of the night are disrupted, then stage 3 is really going to be disrupted. So this is where our body temperature, heart rate, everything is at the lowest. We're in full muscle relaxation. We're difficult to awaken. And this is the stage where most of our healing takes place. So this is going to be important for those people who are in chronic pain, people recovering from surgeries, general aches and pains. We need to get to stage 3 in order to have some of that healing take place. The hormones that help regulate our appetite and control how much we eat are released during this stage. So again, if you're not getting much stage 3, you can have some volatility in terms of your appetite that next day. Blood flow to the muscle increases. Again, this is where, it's going to promote that healing phase. And then this is where we improve our immunity. So a lot of the benefit of sleep is derived from stage 3. And so you can see if we're not getting into that stage 3, that's where you're going to have a lot of issues in terms of the healing process, your immune system, and so on and so forth. REM phase, or rapid eye movement phase, is our dream phase. So we have to get through stage 1 through stage 3 before we can get into REM sleep. This is where we have very vivid dreams, and our muscles should actually have no tone in them, meaning we should be almost like in a sleep paralysis. And this is done because it actually helps prevent our body from acting out our dreams. So if people are sleepwalkers, they have some sort of an issue with the muscle atonia that's happening during this phase. So again, an inverse of the stage 3, the more time that we're asleep, the longer the more time we spend in REM sleep, where it's shorter in the beginning of the night. So the sleep architecture, in terms of what we mentioned just a little bit ago, stage 1 and stage 2 are fairly consistent. Stage 3 is longer in the night, gets shorter and shorter. REM sleep is shorter and gets longer and longer. In terms of some of the research that, sleep uh, really relies on, or really goes hand in hand with physical therapy, I should say. I pulled some of the quotes from some of the main research that I looked at for this presentation. So the relationship between sleep disturbance and pain intensity are bidirectional, meaning they go together, and support addressing sleep in the assessment and management of chronic pain. So most people who have chronic pain aren't getting through their full night's sleep. They're having trouble going to sleep, mostly because of pain, or they're also taking, or I guess I should say, they're also taking some pain medication or sleep aids that help them fall asleep, but might not be the most beneficial in terms of their recovery aspect, which we'll talk on in a little bit later. Sleep assessment is important for effective management of low back pain. Management strategies for chronic low back pain need to address sleep to maximize quality of life. Later on, we're going to go through some proper sleep positions if you are having pain while you're sleeping at night. Insomnia leads to changes in the immune response, including the overproduction of pro-inflammatory cytokines, which can alter the body's tissue healing mechanisms. So again, that insomnia, you're not getting into stage 3. There's a buildup of inflammatory cytokines in our system because there's an alteration in our immune system. That's going to really change how we heal. And then when sleep is deprived, the active process of lymphatic system does not have time to perform the function. So the lymphatic system is like our plumbing system. It helps get rid of a lot of our waste that's in our arms and our legs and throughout our body. So toxins build up, and the effects will become apparent in cognitive abilities, behavior, and judgment. There's also a lot of research that talks about how sleep deprived driving is actually way more dangerous than drunk driving, because you go into these what they call micro sleeps, where with drunk driving your reaction time is delayed, whereas these micro sleeps, you have no reaction time. There's no reaction at all. So cognitive abilities, behavior, and judgment all change. And fun fact, they actually outlawed the use of sleep deprivation as a negotiation tactic or a torture tactic, because it altered the way that the information was given from, let's say, a terrorist, because they would start to give faulty information, not because they were doing it on purpose, but they were sleep deprived and they were going crazy. So sleep loss, one night of bad sleep, it's not going to kill you, but it's not going to help you that next day. You tend to be hungrier or might overeat. They did a big research study where people were sleep deprived and they had them go through a buffet. And when they were not sleep deprived and they went through a buffet, and can't remember the exact numbers, but it was a staggering amount more calories that the sleep deprived group ate than the non-sleep deprived group. You're more likely to have an accident, catch a cold, you're going to be more emotional, and you're going to have some memory issues. Again, we're not getting through that cleansing phase of the brain. We're not getting long-term and short-term memories filed away, and we can become emotional. If you have chronic sleep loss, your stroke risks quadruple, obesity risks jump, cancer rates increase, diabetes and heart disease risk goes up, sperm count drops, and as you can guess, the mortality rate also increases based on all of these things. All because of something that we kind of cast off of, like, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or oh, I can function on 5 or 6 hours a night. you may be able to get through, but you may be putting yourself at a higher risk for all these diseases. So common causes of sleep loss. Insomnia is just poor sleep quality, whereas sleep deprivation is poor sleep quantity. So the deprivation aspect is more common in adults 30 to 40, and that's going to be more of a lifestyle issue. So last night, our daughter decided that she wanted to wake up at 4 in the morning. So sleep deprivation comes in adults in their 30s and 40s, primarily because you have the introduction of kids. You might be, waking up early, staying up late, doing some work. There's a lot more sleep disturbances in that age group, so you have some sleep deprivation, and that's defined as less than 7 hours in bed per night or less than 3 sleep cycles total. Sleep apnea. So there's 5 warning signs of sleep apnea: snoring, choking, or gasping for air, daytime fatigue or sleepiness, obesity, and high blood pressure. And what sleep apnea does is when you start to have those choking, your brain wakes up because it's not getting oxygen, and it's going to fragment that sleep. So we talked about having to get through stage 1, 2, 3 to get to REM sleep. Now with those fragmentations, we're not getting through all those phases. Common causes of sleep apnea. So people who have a BMI of 30 or greater, a neck size of 17 inches in males or 16 inches or greater in females, alcohol and narcotics. Because they are a sedative, it causes a relaxation in your throat, and that's what causes some of the choking or the snoring. Smoking, family history of sleep apnea, and high blood pressure are all common indications of sleep apnea. Treatment for sleep apnea. So we have a CPAP machine, oral appliance therapy, weight loss. Again, so looking at some of the risks, BMI greater than 30, neck circumference, all that stuff can be altered with weight loss and proper eating and exercise. Positioning while sleeping. So if you are a snorer, trying to avoid sleeping on your back. If you sleep with someone else, they might do the old pinch your nose or try to push you onto your side to try to get you to stop from sleeping. Behavioral changes: stop smoking, no alcohol before bed, and stay on a strict sleeping schedule. Manual therapy, so physical therapy, can actually help with sleep apnea. So everyone should have at the top of the roof of their mouth is our hard palate. And if you run your tongue long ways along the roof of our mouth, it should be relatively flat. You'll get to the front of the mouth and you'll feel some bumps. But if you run your tongue up and down through there, it should be flat. Some people have a dome where it feels like it's like a cave, almost like this, where you feel this ridge running long ways in your mouth. We can actually do some manual therapy treatments to help widen that hard palate and work on some of the glottis and the strength of the esophagus and the muscles around the throat, and put your head in a little bit better position. Working on fascial restrictions, soft tissue restrictions, joint mobility deficits that can actually help with some of the snoring and the sleep apnea. Or you can do pharmacotherapy to help with that. So how does our lifestyle affect our sleep? Again, we talked about light exposure. So especially blue light in the evenings is going to inhibit that melatonin release from our pineal gland. Ways around this are trying to stay away from electronics, especially late at night. If you do like to read before bed, maybe get an old-fashioned book. You can limit screen times. Or I'll also use some blue light blocker glasses, which we'll touch on those later, but they look pretty sweet like these, and it helps block that blue light from entering your eye, which is going to help the pineal gland continue to stimulate melatonin. So when I was up late working on this presentation, I had my cool glasses on. Fighting jet lag. So again, lifestyle choices are going to lead to some jet lag, which is an unfortunate side effect of traveling. You want to try to alter your sleep schedule before the trip if you can. Even if you can fudge it an hour, it's going to help you adjust much quicker to the time zone that you're going into. Sunlight exposure early in the morning, so it's going to cue that circadian rhythm. So especially first thing, those first 30 minutes of the sunrise, getting that into your eyeballs is going to stimulate your body to say, hey, it's daytime. And then when the sun goes down, then you'll have a little bit better circadian rhythm. You want to minimize alcohol and caffeine, stay hydrated, and exercising before your flight can actually help you fight jet lag. Interesting thing with this is that it can take up to a day per time zone to change. So if you have an 8 hour time difference, it could take you almost the entire trip if you're there for a week or a little more than a week just to catch up and get back on your proper sleep schedule. Other lifestyle issues, which we're going to talk a little bit more on later, are alcohol consumption, TVs in the bedroom. So really, the bedroom should be used for sleeping, and maybe one other thing, and poor stress management. So if you're laying in bed just thinking about all the things you need to do tomorrow or everything that happened today, those are going to be some lifestyle issues, which again we'll touch upon here shortly. So sleep aids, when we look at different sleep aids, there's different categories. So sedative hypnotics, sedative antidepressants, sleep wait cycle medication, and antipsychotics. Sedative hypnotics, how they work is they depress your central nervous system. So it causes drowsiness by slowing your brain activity. It helps you fall asleep. The unfortunate side effect of these is it eliminates phase 3 of sleep. So if you remember, phase 3 of sleep is where all of our recovery phase takes place, where our white blood cells do a lot more circulation. It boosts our immune system. So when you're on these benzodiazepines, or what they call Z drugs, which are Xanax, Restoril, Sonata, Lunesta, Ambien, all of these are going to eliminate that phase 3 of sleep. So yeah, you may fall asleep, but you're not getting that restful recovery that we all need. So the downside of these also is that they're very addictive, and you can actually have a rebound effect when you go to get off of them, to where you literally cannot fall asleep because you're trying to wean yourself off and you're going through withdrawals. So I always highly recommend, if you can get off of these, try to get off of them and use more natural supplements first, or try to use more natural supplements to help you get off of these, because they are going to really limit your quality of sleep. Antipsychotics. So Neurontin or gabapentin and Lyrica are 3 drugs that we deal with a lot in the physical therapy side of things, just because of pain. So again, you can have addiction to these. You can get rebound insomnia, drowsy driving, dizziness, fall risk, memory loss, sleepwalking, and hallucinations. All of these are common side effects for these drugs. So again, the effect that it has on your sleep, while it may not directly affect sleep cycles, it's going to really affect how you function on a day-to-day basis. And unfortunately, as we age, much like everything else, our body metabolism slows down. So the effects of these drugs could actually last a lot longer. So if you're not getting a full 8-9 hours of sleep and you're trying to wake up early and go drive, you may have drowsiness with driving, you have some dizziness. It can lead to a lot more higher risk for accidents. So what can you take? So some herbal supplements that really help with a lot of our sleep issues. So L-tryptophan, which is common in Turkey. You have that big turkey dinner at Thanksgiving. You sit down to watch the Cowboys play football, and then before you know it, the second quarter is over and you've fallen asleep and you don't remember the rest of the game. There's also L-tryptophan amino acid, which is a prescription only. You can get L-tryptophan and this amino acid in a pill form and actually help take it for sleep. 5-HTP is best for assisting with sleep if sleep is accompanied with depression. So again, it's a more of a natural supplement that can help you with that aspect. Melatonin, if you are having trouble falling asleep, melatonin can help with that. Safe dosages are around 0.5 to 5 milligrams per day, but it shouldn't exceed 10 milligrams. Even though there are products out there that have higher risk, there is some research out there to suggest too that if you are on this consistently, it can start to inhibit your body from producing it naturally. So you do want to go off of this if you can. Melatonin is also a great way to fight jet lag if you are traveling. Tart cherry juice concentrate. So if you were part of our conversation about inflammation earlier, a month ago, we talked a lot about tart cherry juice concentrate because it's a powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. And two tablespoons of that are the equivalent to 5 milligrams of melatonin. So it is a very powerful sleep aid. So I like to take 2 tablespoons maybe about 30 to 45 minutes before bed, and I find that it does help me fall asleep. Whether that's a placebo effect, I don't really care. I feel like it helps me fall asleep and get better sleep. So the research does suggest that. So participants that drank tart cherry juice had higher levels of melatonin afterward and showed extended sleep time by 84 minutes versus those that took a placebo. And it's also been shown to increase sleep time and sleep efficiency. The caveat with that is if you are on blood pressure medication, it can lower your blood pressure more. So you do want to check with your doctor to make sure you're okay to take that. Magnesium has a wide range of effects on our body between affecting blood vessels. It's good for blood sugar, insulin, nerve conduction, but it also the low magnesium in our body is also a side effect. A side effect can be that it disrupts our sleep. So 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium can really help boost your sleep if you are deprived of magnesium. And with magnesium, quality and type of magnesium does matter. A lot of times you'll see magnesium oxate or oxide. You want to think about, you want the eights. So you want to eat the eights. So magnesium oxate is going to be better. It's more absorbable for your body that way. Vitamin D, best taken by sunlight. Again, sunlight first thing in the morning is fantastic to help cement your circadian rhythms. And it can, again, fluctuate by season. If you do any blood testing and you get vitamin D results, the optimal amount is 60 to 80 nanograms per milliliter of your blood. You can do some D3 supplementation, although it's not as good as the sunlight going into the eyes and through the skin. GABA is a neurotransmitter, so it helps balance sleep. L-theanine is a great way to help sleep as well. And valerian or valerian root is helps with anxiety or nervousness. So all these are great sleep aids that are, in a bottle or in some of the foods that we eat. Sleep positions and recommendations. So we're going to go over some sleep positions if you have pain. The ridiculous thing about some of these positions is it's just a crazy amount of pillows and support. But when you're in a lot of pain, sometimes just finding a position of comfort is the hardest thing. So with the sleep positions, we always want to try to keep our body fully supported in a neutral position from what we call proximal to distal. So I want to support from all the way from my armpit, all the way to my hand, all the way from my hip down to my foot. So when we look at different sleep positions, if we're lying on our back. So this is just on a treatment table. Obviously, the firmness or the softness of the bed is really going to play into effect in terms of how many pillows and the position that you're going to be in terms of your body. But if we look here, we have the entire hip. So a lot of people get recommendations to put a pillow underneath their knees when they lay on their back. That's great, but it leaves the hip and the foot and ankle unsupported. This way you get that full support of the entire leg and it offloads that. And if you have low back pain, especially and you're a back sleeper and you have tightness in the front part of your hip, this is a great way to offload that low back and help you lie down better here. The other thing you could do is, let's say I'm a back sleeper and it's more of like a shoulder issue. I could have more of a smaller pillow or a folded up towel underneath my arm. You want your head and neck in a neutral position. If the pillow in this case is too thick, I'm going to have my head in this big forward head position. If it's too thin, I might be here. And if I have any neck extension issues, that could be an issue. So you just want to have the pillow give you a neutral position of the neck. When we're in side lying, this picture, I was on a timer. I don't know why it looks like I'm frowning. It's a very comfortable position. But this is the position in side lying. So you can see, again, the legs are supported from all the way up in the groin, all the way down to the foot. So you can use multiple pillows or you can use a body pillow to help stabilize or help support the entire leg. You could use another pillow or a folded towel underneath the top arm. For those with like a narrow waist or a firmer bed, sometimes you need to have a little bit of a folded towel here. You want to be careful though not to have a rolled up towel, because if you have a roll, you create a fulcrum. So if you have a rolled up towel and I go to lay over, it's going to create this fulcrum where you're going to hinge over, versus if it's more of a supported folded up position, now I'm going to be more supported there. So you can see you don't want to really create more pressure points, you want to start to alleviate those. Again, head position, you want that pillow to be the right amount of thickness. So if it's too thin, and this is my bed here, I'm going to be in this side bent position to my right throughout the night. If it's too thick, I'm going to be side bent away. So you want to look at head and neck position when you're lying on your side. Stomach sleepers. I don't like stomach sleepers. I don't have anything against the people. I don't like stomach sleeping. So stomach sleeping is very challenging, and I would challenge you to actually find a more of a offloaded position like this. So the problem with stomach sleeping is that most people, when they're on their stomach, they're here with both one arm, both arms, or some sort of combination here, and the head is completely rotated to one side. So I'm in this completely rotated position through the entirety of the night. If you have neck pain, low back pain, all that, it's really gonna load that tissue, load the joints quite a bit. So you can see where my head in this position, I'm almost at like a 45-degree angle where my head and my nose is off the edge of the pillow, so I'm not in this full rotation. I have a little bit of support underneath this top leg and underneath my body, so it's kind of supporting me in this like semi sideline face down position. So I'm not in this full extended rotated position of the neck. So again, a lot of pillows, but for those people that are sleeping and they're having trouble sleeping, they're having trouble falling asleep because of pain, this can make a world of difference. The question I always get is, yeah, this is great, but I toss and turn through the night. And I understand a lot of people do. There's two frames of thought with that. One, you might be tossing and turning because you're uncomfortable. And so your body's trying to find a comfortable position. The other thing is if you do toss and turn and you come out of this position, I would rather you be in a fully supported position that you can fall asleep in for an hour versus not at all. So it is a little cumbersome. This is not something that I do on a nightly basis, but if I have pain, if I need to offload some tissue, I will do this. So, what are some things that people can do starting tonight to help improve their sleep? So, we're going to go over 11 habits as some action points for you guys and try these out. It does take some time sometimes to kind of train yourself to keep on these, but we're going to go through 11 habits. So, number one is get a sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time or at least within an hour every night. So even on the weekends, you want to try to keep that sleep schedule. If you do take naps, you want them to be before 3 o'clock in the afternoon and no longer than 30 minutes. If you go longer than 30 minutes, it actually puts you more into your sleep cycle phase and you end up waking up more tired. That 30 minutes is a good way just to help clean out some of the adenosine that helps that sleep pressure we talked about. So naps are beneficial in that way, but you don't want them to disrupt your sleep schedule. So, if you have to wake up at 6 a.m., let's say, you want to make sure you get that, 8, 9 hours of sleep. So it's almost more beneficial to set a sleep timer than a wake timer, a sleep alarm versus a wake alarm. So if you're one of those people that gets wrapped up in their work and before you know it, you look up and it's midnight and you're like, oh crap, I got to wake up at 6. You need to set a timer for 9 o'clock, turn the computer off, do your wind down. 10 o'clock is bed, wake up by 6. So that's just a sample of that. Exercise. You want to have moderate exercise, 30 minutes per day to help with sleep, and nothing super high intensity just before bed. Smoking. So again, we talked about sleep apnea. Smoking is a risk. It can cause. There's a greater risk for sleep apnea if you smoke. So smoking is a huge way that can disrupt your sleep, not only with sleep apnea, but also nicotine is a stimulant, so it can keep you awake at night. So it will decrease your deep, and it can also decrease your deep sleep. But you also typically wake up early due to nicotine withdrawals, and so it can shorten that sleep cycle. You want to avoid afternoon caffeine. So within 5 hours of bed. So the half-life of caffeine is 4.9 hours. So typically 5 hours before bed, I try not to have any caffeine after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I just find that I'm typically in bed by 9 o'clock, 9:15. If I have caffeine after 3 o'clock, it just really affects my sleep. So avoid PM caffeine. Avoid alcohol. So this is the most popular sleep aid. The old faithful nightcap. If I can't fall asleep, little whiskey in the glass, and before you know it, I'm asleep. It helps you fall asleep. It makes you fall asleep, but it doesn't give you it's not a quality sleep. It increases the adenosine, so it's going to increase your sleep pressure, and that's how it helps you fall asleep. But creates a sedative effect that decreases the GABA receptors. So we talked about GABA as a supplement that you can take to help you fall asleep. It decreases those receptors, and so it doesn't let you get into those deeper phases of sleep. It alters that architecture. And so it increases the amount of REM sleep, but decreases our stage 3, which is, again, our healing phase. That's where we get our immunity from. So you do want to modify, if you are that person that needs that nightcap to fall asleep, typically no alcohol 4 hours before bed. So you want to go day drink, have fun. 4 hours before bed, try to stay away from alcohol if you can. It also increases the risk of sleep apnea because of the relaxation of the head and the neck. We tend to be more in this extended position. Our tongue will fall back into our mouth, or into our throat, and that's why we start to get some of the snoring and the sleep disruption. Eat wisely. So not only, we'll talk about foods and stuff like that you want to eat quality foods, but you also don't want to eat 2 to 3 hours before bed. That wakes up the digestive system and can disrupt our circadian rhythm. Medication usage. So avoid medications that delay or disrupt sleep. If you can't avoid them, you want to see if you can take them more in the morning, because if they are a stimulant to where it keeps you awake, you don't want that to bother you in the evening. Sunlight exposure, super important for our circadian rhythm. First thing in the morning, try to get that early morning sunrise exposure. Arizona, it's hot. You don't want to be outside at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in July. I get it. Go out at 6 in the morning and see that first light. That's so beneficial for our circadian rhythm, and it is a great way to start your day in terms of just getting you off on the right foot. It's going to help with that vitamin D production. So it doesn't need to be this like super intense temperature. It's just about that sunlight exposure. Limit blue light exposure. Again, my fancy glasses here. You want to avoid blue light 1 to 2 hours before bed. That can be very hard to do in our modern society, especially if you're working up to your bedtime. Wearing some of these glasses will help modify some of that, so you're not getting that direct blue light into your eyes. We've also changed some certain lights in our house to incandescent lights. So during the day, we'll use our regular lights if we need them, but towards the end of the night, we'll turn those off and do the lights that have the incandescent light. So it's more of a red light that comes into our eyes, and it doesn't stimulate that or doesn't inhibit that release of melatonin. Relax before bed. So a warm shower or bath is going to help elevate your body temperature. And then that cooling off is similar to what happens in stage 1 of sleep, where it starts to make us tired and ready to go to bed. So warm shower or bath 1 to 2 hours before bed can be awesome. Do a little Epsom salt in there, or what they call a hydrogen bomb, which I'm still looking into. It's an interesting topic, but that can really help with just some of the inflammation as well. Doing some gentle yoga or stretching, low level exercises, meditation, doing that sort of stuff before bed is a great way to start relaxing and getting your nervous system to calm down. Again, you don't want to do a super high intense workout right before, because that's going to get your heart rate going, get everything amped up. You want that relaxation before bed. Lastly, your bedroom is your cave. You want it dark, cool, and quiet. So the darkness helps that melatonin production. Again, it's going to limit the light exposure into our eyes. Dim lights in the evening, blackout curtains, sleep mask, all those things are beneficial for us to help promote our sleep. The hard thing about Arizona is it's, especially in the evening, it stays light so late and then it gets light so early. So having those blackout curtains or that sleep mask, if you can tolerate sleeping with one of those, can be hugely important. We want a cool environment. So research shows the most effective sleep temperature is 65 degrees. That's a little cold for a lot of people. We don't keep our house that cold at night. We usually go to like 72 just because our kids get pretty cold. But 65 is actually the most efficient sleep temperature that you have. And then you want some quiet or you want some white noise. So you don't want those like bangs to wake you up out of sleep. So if you have, like, I've always slept with a fan ever since I've been younger. So I have to have my fan. If that goes off, I wake up right away. So white noise or earplugs are great to help improve your sleep habits. With that, I wanted to thank you guys for sitting through my 40-minute spiel. I tried to keep it as short as I could, but there was a lot of information that I wanted to go over and some that I had to eliminate. So at this time, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to. Let me stop sharing this. I'd be happy if you guys have any questions at this time to answer those. So, any questions from anyone? Okay. If there are no questions, we are going to, I will post these on YouTube. So there are replays on YouTube. They have the replays of all of our community lectures that we've had so far. And they're posted up there just for your, you can review them. If you have any other questions, like I said, I'm happy to answer them. I think most people have my contact information, but let me share my screen one more time here so I can put that up. So contact information, Greg at lawsofmotionpt.com. Next month, I'm doing a lecture on designing your workout program. So, what do you need in terms of goals and what kind of exercise do you need to achieve those goals? So we're going to go over designing your own workout program to achieve your fitness goals. I'm always open to recommendations, or if you have other questions or have hey, can you do a lecture on this? Happy to hear out any ideas and help educate the community. But that's my contact information, Greg at lawsofmotionpt.com. Wanted to thank you guys again one more time for showing up and for listening to my spiel. And sleep well tonight.